Welcome fellow watch lovers. Today we're looking at a RMALTI GS Homage, and I'm fairly excited about this one. This is a new brand to me, and I think fairly new overall. There is a lot to like here at the price point, and it really helped scratch the itch for a GS design. I'll talk about that in a minute here after we go through some of the specifications. In typical fashion, we have a sapphire crystal stainless steel case that has a very nice mixture of brushing and polishing indices that have brushing and polishing. As you can see here, it almost creates like a mirror ball effect with the hands almost randomly catching the light as you move the watch and reflecting it back, as well as these hands that have some brushing, some polishing, some beveling to them that helps it stand out. The dial itself is called a linen dial. I'm trying to show a little bit of that texture here. This is the stale dial version. There's no branding on the face here. There is the R on the crown, and then the clasp is also sterile. It does have automatic printed on the dial close to the 6 o'clock position. Date window here, white window, white background, black text, and it has a little frame around it as well. We have vertical brushing on the top of the bezel. Then that turns into polished around the side, and then top of the lugs has got some brushing as well as some polishing on the outer chamfer as well as that inner chamfer. Then the side of the case has a beautiful arc to it and is very well brushed side to side. We have drilled lug holes on the side. The side of the bracelet is polished, basically brushed on the side, on the outsides, on the insides, and then fine polishing on the center, clasp, brushed, and then little polishing on the side of the chamfer there. So the brushing, the finishing, the polishing is basically kind of the quality that I have come to expect from, you know, the San Martin type of brands. Certainly a step up from other brands that are selling their timepieces, you know, closer to the $100 and $150 mark. These are definitely above that. The clasp is milled, all done to a very nice standard. Double pushers, has a solid locking mechanism. Now, I mentioned San Martin here. I would say that this clasp adjustment doesn't maybe feel quite as nice as the San Martin pieces, but it's not that far off. And we do have 3 micro adjustments on the bracelet, and there's no easy link extension, but it was easy to size using a Bergeon tool. Now the links are interesting in that typical GS fashion, you have some angularity to them, which I think adds some additional interest. As you can see, as you manipulate these in the light here, the edges of the end links are beveled here on the center, and I think that adds some interest there. Now we have a case back, a see-through case back with NH35. Now, one thing to note here is the case back is also sapphire crystal. Something worthy of pointing out because so many other watches in this type of price point will go for mineral crystal on the case back, even if they may have sapphire on the front. And so I think that, to me, was a nice added touch. It has kind of the product number, the RM001, Japan NH35 engraved here, automatic movement, all stainless steel, and sapphire crystal, all written on the back here. Now, kind of odd choice, of course, is having all of this polished here on the case back and whatnot. Not a big deal, but of course it's going to get fingerprints and all that kind of stuff, and prints from your back of your wrist and things like that. Nothing to be really concerned about, as you won't really see it when you're wearing it. Now you may ask why I got a steel dial version of this, and that's because the branding on this, I think, is the main area that they just need to kind of improve upon. I know there was some discussion about sort of rebranding, figuring out what a logo would look like, what maybe a new brand name would look like, and things like that. And you can look up and see what you think for yourself, but just the brand name doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And even though things were well executed, didn't really add anything to it. And so on a piece like this, where the feature really is really about the dial and the finishing and things like that, didn't really want any distractions. I mean, I'm all for these watch brands that don't actually have branding. I mean, I don't really care all that much about that stuff. It's about the quality and execution and things like that. So I went with this variation, as I thought it was kind of a nice go with everything watch. It does not have a loom on the hands or indices. Obviously, this isn't going to end up being like a dive watch or a go everywhere, do anything watch, but something that lends a little bit closer to the dress or dress casual aesthetic. Gray dial, hard to go wrong, as it goes with everything. The fit and finish are just truly excellent all around on this piece, especially at this price point. So size for my 7.5 inch wrist, 159 grams. It's about a 40 millimeter case. The lug width is kind of a surprising almost 22 millimeters. Tapers down a bit to around 18. Then back up to about 20 at the clasp without the pushers. And it's under 12 millimeters thick. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video that this helped scratch some of that GS Homage style itch for me. You may have seen one of my other videos where kind of the first one I got was the Pagani design. This is one of the first to offer something in that GS styling, and you can kind of see them side by side. I do like the fact that this has PK63 mecha quartz movement, so it has the sweeping hand and things like that. But you can tell that the RMALTI is on a completely different level in terms of finishing, styling, and execution, just all around. And it is, of course, a much more expensive watch, but there's really no comparison. This one really looks and feels much more premium, and also the general styling of this is more of what I think when I think sort of the iconic GS styling. Everything from the bracelet look to the case look to the hand indices look. Yes, GS has pieces that look kind of similar in layout to this one, but this is really what I think of when I think of GS styling. So I highly recommend checking this one out if you're in the market for something like this, and something that's different than a lot of the other homages out there. Really very satisfied with quality to price ratio on this one. The details are definitely just there. Looks great, feels great. wouldn't surprise if they eventually, if they can rebrand and get the branding a little bit better, I wouldn't be surprised if they start pushing up the price point a little bit as they become more established. In some respects, this could be kind of like getting on the ground floor here. These really are great looking watches, and curious to see what other dial combinations they come up with here. I went for something that's subtle and kind of goes with everything, but was definitely highly interested in looking at some of the more textured dials that they have as well. Certainly after I got past the first phase and checking out what they can offer. So if you found this review helpful, and please like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content.